Jared Goff is going to win MVP this year. Let me tell you why. Alright guys, so I just wanted to make a video on my updated thoughts on why I think Jared Goff will win MVP this year. So if you guys have been following this channel for a while, everyone would know that back in the day I made a video that kind of took a lot of people by surprise, and I said Jared Goff will win MVP with the Detroit Lions this year. Now that was last year. Well, a few things led to that not happening. Obviously the Lions not exactly having the best record may have had something to do with that, but anyways, enough of talking about the past with the Lions, because that's obviously something we don't really want to talk about. Let's talk about the present. Well, actually I do want to talk about the past a little bit longer. Some of the reasons why I think Jared Goff didn't win MVP last year, as well as the Lions didn't do very well last year, is one, injuries, especially with their running back DeAndre Swift. He had some injuries that didn't exactly go too well for him, but some other things that happened with the Detroit Lions that led them to go 3-13-1 is going to be just their terrible wide receivers. So I thought they could make do with what they had, but if I'm going to be extremely honest with you guys, their wide receivers are Tyrell Williams, who got hurt a ton, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is very good, I will say that, Josh Reynolds, I also think is pretty good, but then they really relied on Khalif Raymond, Daryl Hodge, and Quinton Cephas. At one point, it was pretty much just Quinton Cephas, Daryl Hodge, and Josh Reynolds just running the show. So their wide receivers weren't exactly the best. And they have gotten some pretty big upgrades this year, and that's why I think Jared Goff can definitely have a run at that MVP. But let me talk about a little bit more in depth why I think that. So first off, I want to go over the offensive line, all the improvements that the Lions have made, and that's going to start with their offensive line. In a 2022 NFL offensive line rankings by FTNFantasy.com, the Lions were ranked as the 5th best offensive line in the league. Now, their offensive line was great last year. Taylor Decker got hurt a couple of games, but overall, they have an extremely good offensive line. I would argue the best offensive line in the league. And whenever Jared Goff he has a good pocket, a good clean pocket, he does very well. And with the pairing of DeAndre Swift as well as TJ Hawkinson, and then their new additions at wide receiver with DJ Chark, as well as I don't know why his name is slipping my mind, Jameson Williams, who is probably the best prospect out of the draft. I think this offensive is going to be absolutely explosive. Not even to mention the rest of the additions that they have had, but we'll get into that in a second. Yeah, let's just get into the offseason that Detroit had. So, grading Detroit's entire offense 2022 offseason, let's go over this. So, player retention, they got an A grade, and that's because they retained pretty much everyone that they wanted to, and they kind of kept the last year's team and rolled it with some new additions into this year's team. Only three players signed deals elsewhere. One of them, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, was the only really big loss, and the other two weren't too big of losses. So they got an A grade for that. In terms of player acquisitions, they got a C. However, I think they added people at the right positions, especially with the wide receiver DJ Chark. I think him paired with Jameson Williams and now TJ Hawkinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're going to have an explosive offense now that they can run, pass, and have a great offensive line to back them up. This could be a very explosive offense that Jared Goff leads the charge on. And then in terms of coaching staff, they retained everyone except for Anthony Lynn, but he lost his play calling duties midway through the season, so they're not too worried about that one. They got a B+ on that from this website. And then the NFL draft. The Lions absolutely killed it. We've been talking about the offensive side of the ball this whole time. Well, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be one of the biggest additions for the Lions. He is a generational talent from what we've seen in college, and he looks to already start contributing week 1 to the Lions and could really bring that defense back in, or reel that defense back in. And they also got Jameson Williams, like I said, a standout wide receiver, probably the best prospect in the draft. However, he did get hurt, so a lot of people were a little bit hesitant to get him. But yeah, really doing well in terms of offseason. I think that the Lions had one of the sneaky best off seasons out of any NFL team. So where does that lead to me thinking that Jared Goff is going to be MVP? Well, let me tell you. In this last season, Jared Goff, he did take a little bit of a step back, but something that you guys need to know is that he only played in 14 games. So he had 3,200 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. That's an improvement on interceptions, very close to the same amount of touchdowns, even with 3 less games than he was supposed to have, and a 91 rating, which has been increasing all the past 3 years, and a completion rating or completion percentage of 67%, which is one of the top in the league. So if he were to play those 3 other games and say he got 200 yards per game, he'd be at about 3,800 to 3,900-ish yards, and say he got maybe a touchdown or 2 per game, maybe 1.5 touchdowns, that would lead to him having anywhere from 22 touchdowns to 24 touchdowns, and then say he gets maybe 2 picks, he would have about 10 interceptions in those 3 games. So if he were to play a full season, it looked like about 3,900 yards, 23 touchdowns, and maybe 10 picks. Now, obviously, that's a middle of the pack quarterback, but that was with his terrible weapons that he had. He could definitely increase all of those numbers going to the next year. Well, let's look at the MVP of last year, Aaron Rodgers. You can see here Aaron Rodgers was the MVP for the past 2 seasons. Obviously 2020 very well deserved. 2021 I think it was deserved as well, maybe not as deserved, but look at his stats. He had 4,100 yards. It would have been very similar if Jared Goff played all of his games. 37 touchdowns, which is much more than Goff had, but Aaron Rodgers also had Devontae Adams and a lot of great weapons, and then only 4 interceptions. Jared Goff will have more interceptions. However, I think he can definitely do much better with the clean pocket he's going to have and the new weapons that he has received as well. And the thing is when people are looking for a new MVP, we're not going to get another Aaron Rodgers MVP this year. It's just not going to happen, especially with Devontae Adams leaving. When they're looking for a new MVP, they're looking for a storyline. What would the storyline be if the Lions went 10-7 this year, coming from 3-13-1? If they were to go 10-7 and get a wild card in the playoff, and Jared Goff improves all of his different statistical categories, maybe gets 10 interceptions, 32 to 34 touchdowns, and maybe 4,500 yards. That's definitely a case for MVP, depending on how other people play during the season as well. So I don't want you guys to just write off that Jared Goff can't be MVP. Now, I know a lot of you guys think he's a bottom 10 quarterback. I personally think he's in that 10 to 12 range. A lot of you guys might call me crazy, but if he's able to bring this team from 3-13-1 to 10-7, I think it's too good of a story to pass up on, and he could possibly win MVP. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys haven't already. Leave a like on the video. My name is Zach, and I'll see you in the next Rams fan video.